Welcome back to DCS and welcome back to the Hornet. Today we're going to be looking back at 2019 and looking forward to 2020. Of course, about a year ago I did exactly the same thing but in X-Plane and looking at the awful scenery for southern England, which was incredibly impressive at the time. But of course then we got news of Microsoft's Flight Sim 2020, which produced the same sort of scenery, if not better, apparently stock. So I'll talk a little bit more about FS 2020 a little bit later. 2019 was really all about X-Plane. I think pretty much all of the videos were about X-Plane, with the exception of a handful of BMS videos. I really wanted to get more into the F-16 and BMS last year, as it will be shortly in 2019, but for one reason or another I didn't end up doing what I expected with the F-16 and in particular with BMS. I do plan to return to that in 2020, but that will be a part of combat sims in general, which will also of course feature DCS. I think if I had one criticism really of 2019, it would be that I didn't have sufficient focus in the videos that I was producing, and that is something I do plan to change in 2020. Now I've just put up a poll on what you'd like to see in the new year, and that is pretty much evenly split, 30% to BMS, DCS and FS 2020. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of appetite for more X-Plane in 2020. I might do more X-Plane. It really kind of depends on how long it takes FS 2020 to be released and what state it is released in. If it's buggy, if there are lots of issues with it, then I may continue doing more X-Plane videos. But I do expect to do quite a bit of FS 2020 in 2020, surprisingly enough. I also plan to do a lot of DCS. I haven't done as much as I probably should have done in 2019. I did a few tutorials in the A10 and never really went on from there, and I do plan to do a lot more with the aircraft and also of course with the Hornet in the new year, and it will be more focused than I've been in 2019. So we'll start out doing a lot of landing and approach stuff, including the carrier with the Hornet. And the plan for videos going forward with the combat flight sims is to set up scenarios in which we can look at certain things, whether it's Mavericks, whether it's countermeasures, air-to-ground radar, whatever it is, TACAN, just to create little scenarios that we can then look at and hopefully learn something from. So that's the plan for DCS. BMS, I kind of covered a lot that I want to cover anyway with BMS, but I might do the same thing with that. Of course I haven't looked at IFF, so that could be a tutorial, but most of the tutorials I think I've covered. So that's the plan for the combat flight sims. I might do some IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad. I haven't done the things I wanted to do with that sim, but we'll see how that goes and whether I have the time for that. And of course Flight Sim 2020, doing probably complete flights. The issue I have with complete flights and the campaign in BMS is that people don't seem to watch those videos, so it's kind of it's difficult to put the time and effort into doing complete flights if I don't think they're going to be viewed. So that's an issue. So going forward into 2020, DCS, more BMS and some flights in 2020. I also expect to do dead stick videos. There's not an awful lot of votes for dead stick in the poll, but I think that's because most people are probably unaware of it. I think it'll be an interesting title to cover, but we'll see what happens with that. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be released. I think maybe Q1, Q2, not sure. We'll see how well it works out. So DCS, BMS, FS 2020 and some dead stick, and we'll see what else happens. But whatever I cover, it will be more focused and more concentrated, and hopefully we'll start making strides towards 10,000 subscribers, which is the big number on YouTube. Subscriber numbers have kind of halved, or should I say new subscriber numbers have halved from about 120 a month down to about 50 or 60. That's picking up a little bit again. So ideally I would like to get to 10,000 subscribers. That's a really kind of viable channel. Down here at 4,500 isn't really viable for when you're looking at it in terms of putting a lot of work into it, and a lot of work goes into these videos. So in the near term you're going to see carrier landings in the Hornet. That's something to look forward to. As always, I try to do things as realistically as possible, so you're going to get an insight into the real world operations as well as how you can start to replicate that. So hope you had a good 2019, and here's to a very good 2020 for us all. And as always, feel free to like, comment and subscribe.